All right, here we are in MATLAB, and let's start exploring how to do plots in 2D. MATLAB is very, very powerful. Any plot you can think of, you can do. If you read technical literature, when you look at the plots in articles and books and things like that, half of those are done in MATLAB. You can do 2D, 3D, whatever you want. Rather than just sort of inundate you here, let's do this a step at a time. Let's start with just a simple 2D plot. I'll make a 2D plot and I'll show you how to edit it so you can change the format however you want. And again, the formatting is very, very powerful. You can make any format you like if you just know a little bit about how to do the editing. So let's do that. Now, if I'm set up, you can see the windows that I normally have when I set up. If you want windows that are like this, if yours is not, or you want to change the layout to something you prefer, just click on the layout button and you can mess around here. You can turn on whatever windows you like. Again, I'm using version R2022A. This is actually about a year behind the current release. But for what we're doing, I don't think it really matters. The revisions tend to add features that are sometimes a little obscure, sometimes not. For what we're doing, this is fine. You can see over in the command history window, I executed a whole bunch of commands getting ready to do this screen capture. So rather than type all this stuff back in again, I'm going to go up here a little bit and find a command I wanted before. If I take that one right there, I'm going to copy that. I could double click on it too and it'll just execute it. But let me just copy and paste. And so there's a function right there. It's just a quadratic divided by this. Now it's x squared plus 1 to make sure this will never be 0. You don't ever want to divide by 0. One other thing you'll notice is, see those dots there? Remember, those are vector operations. I'll go ahead and hit return here. So there's 21 numbers. Remember, I'm going from 0 to 2 in steps of 0.1, but since I'm starting at 0 and not 0.1, there's 21 numbers there rather than 20. And so there's a list of y's to go with the x's. Just to reiterate here, let's take that, copy that, I hit Control C, paste it right there. Let's take those out and see what happens. Because normally when you write out this command on paper, you wouldn't put those in. It's going to crash. It's not going to do this. There you go. Doesn't like it. And the reason is that, like x squared, x is a vector, and you're squaring a vector. Well, there's several ways to multiply vectors. There's dot products, cross products, there's some others. What we want here is we want to multiply first element of x times the first element of x, and the second element of x by the second element of x, and so on. So we want to execute these, step by step by step. Well, I didn't tell MATLAB what I wanted to do. I wasn't clear, I was ambiguous, and it's telling me that it doesn't like that. It even gives you a suggestion. For element y's power, put that dot in there, which is what I had before. Now, that should, since this didn't execute, that should still be the correct data that'll run. So let's make a plot, and it's just as simple as this. Just type in plot xy. That'll give you a 2D plot, and there it is. All right, so we can execute or edit this however we want. Well, since I'm doing this screen capture on one screen, I'm going to change my formatting here just a little bit. I'm going to move that over, and I'm going to move this over here so we can see. This way we'll still be able to see all the commands I execute and see how they affect the plot. Now, normally I'll do this with plot on one screen and the MATLAB window on the other, but this works fine. So, I mean, that is a plot, but it's pretty basic. Let's see if we can spice this up a little bit. For starters, let's add a grid. So I'm going to execute the grid command. There it is. And now we've got a grid. That's good. Well, that font is awfully small. Let's fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and click right here. And I'm going to go ahead and right-click on the x-axis. There it is. I can change the font. So I'm going to click there. And let's bring it up to size 14. Now, if you change the x-axis, the y-axis will come along for the ride. It'll change both of them. See, there it is. They just got bigger. That looks pretty good. Another thing I don't particularly like is that the plot goes from 1 to -1, and that's the full range of the y-axis. And it's not great form to have the plot go all the way to the edge. So I'm going to right click on that, or double click on that, I should say. Double click and pull up this property inspector. Well, this is where you can start making all kinds of changes. So since I've clicked it on the axis here, this is the property inspector that's for the axis. You can see right there. I'm going to click on rulers. See right there where it says Y lim? That's Y limit. Well, I don't really want to go that tight. So let's make this minus 1.1 to plus 1.1. That's better. So next thing I want to do is I want to change the format of the curve. Now I can close this if I want, but I don't need to. I'm just going to, since the arrow is still selected here, I'm going to go ahead and just click on that trace. Now I don't particularly like that blue. Let's make it red. I like bold colors. The line style is solid. The line width is 0.5. That's kind of hard to see, so let's make it 2. Now, you can see that it's kind of, you can see the little straight line segments there. Let's put the markers in there to see what we got there. That's better. Okay, turn that off, turn that off. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Well, what if you want to add another trace to the same plot? Can you do that? Absolutely, no problem. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to type the command hold on. Now it sounds like I'm saying hold on. No, what I'm saying is hold on. Turn the hold on. Once I hit that, the plot is sitting here waiting for me to add more content to it. So that might be something like, I'll turn that off. That could be adding another trace. Well, if you look through all this, you see I defined another command called, or another function called y2. So I'm going to double click that and it'll just run. So there it is. It ran. There's y2. So the plot is waiting for me to add another trace. Let's just do it. Now I don't need a new x. I'm using the same x I used before. See right there. So I'll just add that. Now there it is. I don't like it, but there it is. So let's click on that. Double click there. So now it just brought up the property inspector for that trace. You can see there's the property inspector says line. I hate that color, that rust. Ew. Let's make it blue. And line style, let's go ahead and make this a dashed line. There it is. Line width, let's make that 2 again. It would probably be good if we had another marker, so let's use perhaps a square. There. That's looking better. Turn that off real quick. Well, since you've got 2 plots on this set of axes, you probably should have a legend, shouldn't you? Well, there's a command called legend, and the first set of text you put in there associates with the first curve you plotted, and the second set of text you type in associates itself with the second curve you plotted. So since these don't really have any other meaning, I'm just going to call this function 1. Now that single quote right there is telling MATLAB whatever comes after this is text. It's not a number. You can't calculate with it. It's text. And it stays red until you close it. And then it turns, I guess it's kind of a purple. So there's function 1, comma, function 2. Close that, hit return, there it is. Now, is that where I want it? Maybe not. Let's move it. I'm going to click right there, click on that. Now I can move it. Works just about like you figure it should. Maybe I want that font to be a little bigger. So let's bump that up to 18 as well. There we go. And of course you can pick whatever crazy font you want. You can go to Hobo if you want, whatever. But that looks pretty good for right now. Let's put labels on the axes. So how am I going to do that? Well, you can do this through the property inspector for sure. Another way to do it is you can issue a command from the command window. Let's do that this time. X label. Now there's the quote saying I'm about to type in some text. There it is. And let's do the Y label. Oops. There. Now I've got X and Y label. Whoop. because I spelled it wrong, Dr. French. There we go. How's that? See, I make mistakes too, just like you do. And I'll just, for reasons of good form, I'll clear that. But there it is. So now we're good to go. That's looking pretty good. Now, right now it's on the screen. It's not in any useful form, and it's also kind of a weird aspect ratio. That's I want to fix that aspect ratio. Let's do that. Now for that, I'm going to actually go back here, and I'll bring this up to full screen again. I'll go put this on the front. So there it is. Now that's kind of a weird aspect ratio. There are many times in which you want to format the size of the plot a specific way, and you want to be able to repeat that for multiple plots so they look right when you put them in a document. So I'm going to do this. Just turn that on. Right there. Now I've got the property inspector for the whole figure. This figure is the whole thing in it. And right there. Now I can change that title over here if I want to. I'll leave it for right now. And if I go to position, see that right there? Click on those three. So that's X, Y, width, and height. That's the X and Y location, and you can see the units right now are pixels. You can make these other things if you want. I'll leave it in pixels for right now. So in pixels, X and Y are the location of the lower left corner of the plot. And remember, on a computer screen, the origin 0, 0 is at the far upper left. So let's say I want this to be, on this screen, let's make this about 800 and make this, there's that. And let's make this about, I don't know, let's lower it just a little. Let's make that 250. And sometimes it's a little difficult to get a number to go in. There we go. So I've located that point right there, but I didn't change the width and the height any. Let's make these round numbers. Did it again, didn't I? Make these round numbers here. Oops, there's more threes. And let's make this 1,000 pixels wide and maybe 750 high. There. Now that's a fixed size, and if you make more plots, you can just specify this, and they'll all be that size, so it makes it nice and easy to use those in documents. Last thing, can't do anything with this yet until we save it as some sort of file. Well, I suggest you save it in two formats. The first one is called a MATLAB fig file, and let's just call this test plot. I'll save it. It should show up here in a second. Yeah, there it is right there. Now this one you can edit. That has all the data and everything in it. There's two ways to get into a document. One is to say copy figure, so you can copy and paste. Another, probably the more preferred one, is to pick another format. Now there's all these different formats. I don't suggest you use JPEG, because JPEG in compressing the file makes it so that when you get hard color changes, hard contrast differences between like black and white, those get softened. You get with some kind of fuzzy looking edges. So it's a bad format to use if you're trying to get nice crisp plots. There's a lot of others that would work better. I tend to use TIFF just because it preserves those hard edges. If you want to do something else, you can. So save it right there, and now I've got it in FIG and TIFF format. So, well, what would it look like? I'm going to just go ahead and close that. So I've just lost all that work, haven't I? In fact, let's do this. Let's really nuke it. Now, if I wanted to make that plot again, I'd have to go back and execute all this other stuff. Or I can just do that. And I can go back to editing if I want. Click that. Look at that. I can change fonts. I can do anything I want now. Right there. I can change colors. I can edit this just like as if I had just made it. It stores everything, so you can just pull it back and keep going. That's the utility of a FIG file. And a TIFF or one of the other formats is something that's more useful for formatting in a document. Go ahead and get that out of the way now. So there you go. Now you're an expert on 2D plotting with 1, 2, or however many traces.